Gentlemen, listen carefully, because age is not your enemy. It's your edge. In a world obsessed with youth, there's a quiet power that comes with being an older man. A power that doesn't shout, it commands. It doesn't chase, it draws in. That power comes from experience, presence, wisdom, and the kind of confidence that doesn't need validation. Let's break it down. There are 8 proven signs that you're a highly attractive older man. Not by accident, but by the way you've carried yourself through the storms of life. 1. You're calm under pressure. Young men react. Older men respond. Women, and people in general, notice when you can stay cool while others lose their heads. It means you're stable, dependable, safe. And that's irresistibly attractive. 2. You've built a life you don't need to escape from. Attractiveness isn't about looks, it's about direction. An older man who knows where he's going and who he is. He doesn't need to be flashy. His peace is the loudest thing in the room. 3. You have standards, and you keep them. You've been through enough to know what you want, and more importantly, what you won't tolerate. That boundary? That discipline? That's power. And women find it magnetic. 4. Your style speaks before you do. You don't follow trends. You wear confidence as much as you wear your clothes. A tailored jacket, a crisp shirt, a watch that tells more than time, it tells your story. 5. You don't need to impress, you inspire. There's a quiet charm in a man who doesn't try too hard. Who listens more than he talks. Who teaches without preaching? That humility mixed with strength? That's real masculine energy. 6. You prioritize your health, not to look young, but to stay sharp. You move with purpose. Your presence is grounded. Whether it's lifting weights or walking miles, you're not chasing youth, you're honoring your vessel. And people feel that. 7. You make people feel seen. You've learned that the most attractive person in the room is the one who makes others feel important. When you listen with your eyes, remember names, and speak truth, you don't just stand out. You rise above. 8. You know that less is more. You've cut out the noise. You don't entertain chaos. You don't seek approval. You value peace over drama, and depth over attention. That mystery? That maturity? It drives people wild. So if you've ever doubted your worth because of a few gray hairs or laugh lines, let this be your wake-up call. You're not past your prime, you're in it. Because attraction isn't just about the body, it's about your presence. Not about your age, it's about your aura. And the man who's weathered life and still stands tall? That man is undeniably attractive. So wear your age like armor. Carry your story like a crown. Because the right ones, they're watching. And they see you. Calm under pressure is magnetic. There's something deeply powerful about a man who refuses to be shaken when the world around him begins to fall apart. It's not just about having nerves of steel, it's about a deep-rooted presence, the kind of inner stillness that radiates assurance, safety, and strength. When chaos hits and everyone else is panicking, the man who remains grounded becomes the anchor. And whether people admit it or not, they gravitate toward that kind of energy. A calm man isn't calm because life has been easy. Quite the opposite. He's calm because he's been through storms, and those storms taught him not to flinch. He's faced setbacks, losses, heartbreaks, and failures, and he's still here. He didn't avoid the fire. He walked through it. And now, that fire no longer burns him. It forged him. Women, especially, are drawn to this kind of calm. Not in a flashy, obvious way. But in the quiet moments. When things go wrong, when there's tension in the air, when a tough conversation needs to be had, that's when the calm man shines. He doesn't raise his voice to be heard. He doesn't dominate the room with ego. He just exists with this silent authority that says, I've got this. That kind of energy feels like safety, and safety is something few people truly know, but everyone craves. In today's world, people are constantly overstimulated. Notifications buzzing, expectations mounting, drama waiting around every corner. Most people are on edge. They're reactive. They take things personally. They explode. But the man who's calm under pressure, he's rare. And in a world of emotional chaos, rarity is captivating. Think about it, when something goes wrong in a relationship, who do you want beside you? The man who blames, who panics, who shuts down? Or the man who listens, who breathes, who stays present? When life throws curveballs, the man who calmly steps up becomes a pillar, not just for his partner, but for his family, his team, and himself. That calm isn't just attractive, it's leadership in its purest form. But here's the thing, this kind of calm doesn't come from pretending. It's not about bottling up emotions or acting like nothing ever affects you. It comes from self-mastery. From knowing your triggers. From doing the inner work. From choosing, again and again, to respond rather than react. That doesn't mean you're never angry, never afraid, never uncertain. It means you're in charge of your emotions, not the other way around. That control, that emotional discipline, is a magnetic force that people can sense from across the room. Calm is more than stillness, it's power. The kind of power that doesn't need to dominate because it already knows its own strength. The man who walks into a room and doesn't need to prove anything, that man becomes the most interesting person there. Not because he says the most, but because he understands that his presence already speaks volumes. When you're calm under pressure, people trust you. They open up. They rely on you. You become someone they look to when things get hard. And in relationships, that calm becomes a safe harbor. It creates space for connection. For vulnerability. For real love. Because love doesn't grow in chaos, it grows in stability. And when you provide that emotional steadiness, you become someone a woman can lean on, not just in the easy times, but in the hard ones. And let's not forget, being calm under pressure also means being calm with yourself. Not beating yourself up for mistakes. Not spiraling when life doesn't go as planned. It means carrying a mindset that says, I'll figure it out, instead of, it's all falling apart. That kind of mindset builds confidence. It builds consistency. And confidence mixed with calm is an unstoppable force. You don't get calm from reading about it. You earn it. Through adversity. Through setbacks. Through choosing growth over comfort. Every time you resist the urge to lash out, to control, to panic, you're building that calm muscle. And over time, that calm starts to change how people see you. You're no longer just a man, they see you as a man who can be counted on. And in a world where people often feel like they're walking on eggshells, a man like that is rare, and yes, wildly attractive. So no, calm isn't weakness. It's not passivity. It's not detachment. It's a form of power that's earned through resilience, through reflection, and through a refusal to let the world dictate your state of being. It's the difference between chasing respect and commanding it. Between needing attention and attracting it. When you're calm under pressure, you tell the world that nothing outside of you is more powerful than what's inside of you. And that kind of presence? That kind of grounded masculinity? That's what makes people stop. Stare. And silently say to themselves, I want to be near him. A purposeful life is irresistible because it radiates something that cannot be faked, direction. In a world where so many drift without aim, the man who knows where he's going stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. There's something magnetic about someone who wakes up with intention, who carries himself as if every step he takes matters. Purpose gives a man gravity. It's not loud, it's not arrogant, and it's not always visible at first glance, but people can feel it. They sense it in how he speaks, how he listens, how he chooses his battles, and how he walks away from things that don't serve his mission. When a man lives with purpose, he doesn't just react to life, he designs it. He doesn't chase distractions because he's too focused on building something real. He doesn't settle for shallow validation because his deeper mission fulfills him. That kind of presence is rare, and people are drawn to it not always knowing why. Women, in particular, are highly intuitive, and they can feel when a man is aligned with something greater than just getting through the day. They can sense when he's not just floating, not just winging it, but when he's anchored in a vision, whether that vision is to build a legacy, serve a cause, grow a business, or shape a family. This isn't about being rich or successful by society's standards, it's about meaning. You can be broke and have purpose. You can be unknown and still be deeply compelling. Because it's not about status. It's about energy. Purpose gives you an internal compass, and that compass makes you immune to many of the traps that derail other men. You don't fall apart when you're rejected, because your worth isn't tied to approval. You don't crumble when life throws pain at you, because you've got something worth enduring for. You don't get seduced by every shiny thing, because you've chosen a path, and you're sticking to it. A man on a mission doesn't need to sell himself. People buy into him without the pitch. It's the way he says no without guilt. The way he wakes up early because the goal matters more than the comfort. The way he handles setbacks not with defeat but with adjustment. That kind of man exudes reliability. He's not swayed by moods or the opinions of the crowd. His sense of identity is not up for auction. And that's why people feel safer around him, not because he promises safety, but because he embodies it. Purpose also filters out the noise. It sharpens you. You no longer need to prove yourself to everyone because you know who you're proving yourself for. It's not about ego, it's about impact. When you start asking, how can I contribute, instead of how can I get more, something changes in you. You become less needy, less reactive, less easily broken. You stop chasing fleeting highs because you're living for something that outlasts the moment. There's something deeply attractive about a man who doesn't need a woman to complete him, but instead invites her into a life already filled with meaning. He's not looking to be saved. He's not looking to be mothered. He's not clinging to her to give his life structure. He's already built the frame, he's just offering space beside him for someone worthy. That changes everything. The energy shifts. He becomes the chooser, not the chaser. And that reversal of roles is powerful. Because deep down, many women want to follow a man who is going somewhere. Not a dictator. Not a controller. But a leader. A guide. A builder. A man who says with his actions, I've got a vision, and I'd love for you to be part of it. The beauty of purpose is that it fuels resilience. When life gets hard, and it always does, purpose keeps you moving. When your heart gets broken, your purpose is what stitches it back together. When your finances take a hit, your purpose reminds you that your value wasn't in the dollar signs anyway. When you face criticism, your purpose reminds you that your worth isn't on trial. That's why the purposeful man walks with a different kind of confidence. It's not loud or boastful, it's settled. He knows who he is, and that knowing allows him to walk away from drama, to ignore petty insults, and to say no to what's beneath him without flinching. And the thing is, purpose evolves. It deepens. As you grow, so does your mission. What you lived for at May 30th not be what drives you at 50, and that's okay. In fact, that's beautiful. Because purpose isn't a rigid title or a job, it's a relationship with meaning. It's choosing, over and over again, to live with intention rather than just existing. That choice makes a man glow differently. He may have wrinkles, gray hair, a slower stride, but he's lit from the inside. And that glow, that fire in the belly, is what turns heads. Attraction goes far beyond looks. It lives in how a man makes people feel when he walks into the room. And nothing makes people feel more inspired, more safe, more alive, than being near someone who's walking a meaningful path. That's why a purposeful life is irresistible. Because it doesn't just make you attractive, it makes you unforgettable. Strong standards show high value because they communicate something most people are too afraid to declare. I know who I am, and I know what I'm worth. A man with strong standards isn't just confident, he's calibrated. He's chosen his code, and he lives by it. And that, in a world where so many people bend at the slightest resistance, is a rare and deeply attractive trait. Standards are not about being rigid or judgmental. They're about alignment. They are a reflection of how deeply you value yourself, your time, and your energy. They're a quiet but firm declaration that you will not settle for anything that doesn't honor who you've worked to become. When you walk into a room with standards, you don't need to speak loudly. People can sense it. It's in your body language. It's in how you respond to disrespect. It's in how you carry yourself when others try to test you, to manipulate you, or to get you to play small. You don't react with anger, you simply don't engage. You don't entertain drama. You don't chase people who are flaky. You don't stay where you're not respected. And because of that, your presence becomes something people don't take lightly. You stop being another option, and start becoming a standard in yourself. Women notice this quickly. They may not always be able to explain it, but they feel it. A man with strong standards doesn't seek approval. He doesn't mold himself to be liked. He doesn't play games. That kind of clarity can be intimidating, but it's also magnetic. Because in a world full of men who compromise who they are just to gain access to attention or intimacy, the man who stands firm becomes rare. And what's rare becomes valuable. Strong standards are built, not inherited. They're forged through experience, through trial and error, and often through pain. Maybe you once tolerated being talked down to, until you realized it chipped away at your confidence. Maybe you once stayed in situations where your energy was constantly drained, just to be polite. But over time, you learned that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. And so you started drawing lines. Not to punish others, but to honor yourself. That self-honoring becomes your power. It becomes your silent signature. When you have strong standards, you no longer operate from desperation. You stop begging for scraps of affection or bits of attention. You stop bending over backwards to prove your worth. You know your worth. And because you know it, you expect it to be recognized, and if it isn't, you're willing to walk away. That ability to walk away is one of the most powerful positions a man can be in. It means you are no longer trapped by fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being liked. Fear of not being chosen. Instead, you choose yourself, and by doing so, you teach others how to treat you. Standards also shape your environment. When you hold them, they act like a filter. The right people rise to meet them. The wrong ones fall away. You stop attracting chaos because you no longer tolerate it. You stop getting played because you no longer entertain the game. Instead, you attract people who respect clarity. Who value honesty. Who want something real. That's what happens when you elevate your standards. The quality of everything around you starts to rise. But make no mistake, standards are not about being demanding or controlling. They're about being intentional. You don't require perfection, you require respect. You don't expect people to agree with everything, you expect them to communicate with maturity. You don't want followers, you want partners, teammates, people who bring value and receive it in return. That kind of expectation naturally repels those who only want to take, who only want to control, who only want easy access without effort. And that's a good thing. Because you're no longer in the business of proving yourself to people who can't see your value. In romantic relationships, strong standards act as a stabilizing force. They create structure. They create trust. They send the message that you're not here to play around. And ironically, that makes you even more desirable. Because while many people say they want someone easy, what they truly crave is someone they can't walk all over. Someone who won't let them get away with their worst behavior. Someone who challenges them to grow simply by refusing to accept less. A man with strong standards doesn't chase chaos. He doesn't waste time trying to win over those who don't see him. He lives by a code, and that code protects his focus, his energy, and his purpose. Every decision he makes is filtered through that code. Is this aligned? Does this respect me? Does this reflect who I want to be? And if the answer is no, he steps away, not because he's arrogant, but because he's aware. That awareness is what makes him powerful. That power is what makes him attractive. In the end, it's simple. When you raise your standards, you raise your value. And when you raise your value, you stop trying to be chosen, because you realize you already are. By the life you're building. By the peace you're protecting. By the man you're becoming. Strong standards aren't about being hard to please. They're about being impossible to disrespect. And that kind of self-respect will always set you apart. Style and presence speak volumes in ways words never can. Before you say a single thing, the way you enter a room, the way you carry yourself, and the way you dress already tells the world a story about who you are. People make snap judgments within seconds, and in those moments, your style and presence either open doors or close them. It's not about being vain or obsessed with image, it's about signaling self-awareness, intentionality, and respect. When a man takes the time to curate his appearance and master his presence, he isn't just decorating himself, he's making a statement, I value myself, and I'm not here by accident. Style is more than fashion, it's identity made visible. The fit of your jacket, the way your shoes are polished, the scent you wear, the accessories you choose or refuse, they all tell the world something about your standards. You don't need to be flashy to be powerful. You don't need to wear designer labels to stand out. What matters is authenticity. Owning a look that reflects who you are, and doing it with confidence. A man who knows how to dress isn't trying to impress everyone, he's simply showing that he understands detail, discipline, and self-presentation. That kind of man gets noticed, not because he's loud, but because he's intentional. Presence, on the other hand, is what lingers after you've walked in. It's the energy you bring. The posture. The eye contact. The calm or storm you carry in your silence. Presence doesn't require words to dominate a room, it's what makes others sit up straighter, talk differently, and second-guess their posture around you. A strong presence is built through self-trust, emotional composure, and clarity. It comes from knowing who you are and walking in alignment with that. You don't need to announce yourself, people feel you. They notice the way you command space without demanding attention. That's the power of presence. It transcends looks and status and goes straight to the nervous system. It either puts people at ease or awakens their curiosity. A man with refined style and commanding presence instantly differentiates himself in a crowd. He becomes memorable without saying a word. And this matters, not just in relationships, but in business, leadership, and social dynamics. Because whether people admit it or not, everyone is drawn to someone who has taken ownership of how they show up in the world. It speaks of discipline. Of respect for self and others. Of effort. And in a time when laziness and apathy are common, effort is irresistible. When a man dresses well and carries himself with confidence, he doesn't just elevate his appearance, he elevates the environment. People treat you differently when you show up with excellence. Doors open faster. Conversations flow easier. Opportunities find their way to you because you look like someone who's ready. Style is not shallow when it's rooted in substance. In fact, it reflects the mindset that says, I care enough about myself to refine how I'm seen. That refinement sends signals to high-value people, and they notice. Because they, too, speak the language of intentionality. Presence is also about control, not of others, but of yourself. It's how you manage your body language, your tone, your stillness. A man with presence doesn't fidget. He doesn't nervously explain himself. He doesn't seek validation. He is still when others are loud, calm when others are emotional, and deliberate when others are reactive. That sense of groundedness is magnetic. In a chaotic world, presence is a rare form of stability. People gravitate toward it because it makes them feel safe, seen, and respected. And women, in particular, are finely tuned to this. They notice the man who doesn't chase attention but still captures it. The man who doesn't try too hard, because he knows he doesn't need to. Combining style and presence creates a synergy that few men ever master. It's the difference between being liked and being admired. Liked is easy, you smile, you compliment, you get along. Admired is different. Admired is when people take note. When they're inspired. When they find themselves wondering, what is it about him? That's what happens when your external style reflects your internal substance, and when your presence reinforces it with every step, every glance, every wordless pause. But this isn't about pretending or dressing up for approval. It's about congruence, aligning how you look and how you carry yourself with who you truly are and what you believe in. When your presence matches your values, and your style enhances rather than masks your identity, you become someone people respect without needing to ask for it. You're no longer trying to fit in, you're setting the tone. You become the man who raises the standards just by walking into the room. Style and presence are tools, but more than that, they're expressions of self-leadership. They show that you're not leaving your impact up to chance. That you've thought about how you enter spaces, how you influence people, and how you want to be remembered. That awareness is rare, and it's part of what makes you unforgettable. Because in the end, people won't always remember what you said. But they will remember how you made them feel, and often, that feeling began the moment they laid eyes on you. Health is respected, not vanity, because it speaks of something much deeper than appearance. It reflects discipline, consistency, and self-respect. A man who takes care of his health sends a powerful message to the world, not that he wants to be admired for his looks, but that he refuses to neglect himself. He honors the vessel that carries him through life. He understands that strength, endurance, and vitality are not just for show, they are tools for leadership, protection, and performance. Where vanity is shallow and attention-seeking, health is grounded and purposeful. People instinctively know the difference. Vanity is loud. It begs for compliments, thrives on attention, and fluctuates with trends. It's driven by insecurity, not strength. But true health is quiet and confident. It doesn't need applause to stay committed. It's seen in the early mornings, the disciplined meals, the workouts done when no one is watching. Health doesn't announce itself, yet it leaves a lasting impression. A strong, healthy man doesn't just look capable, he is capable. He moves with energy, thinks with clarity, and responds to challenges with composure. That's not something you can fake, and that's why it earns respect. When people see a man who is in good shape, energetic, and mentally sharp, they don't just admire his body, they admire his habits. They know he had to earn it. They recognize the sacrifices he's made, the temptations he's said no to, the discipline he's shown day after day. That kind of consistency is rare in a world addicted to convenience. And that rarity is what makes health so impressive. It shows you value longevity over momentary pleasure. It proves that you're thinking long-term. That you're planning to be here, strong and functional, for years to come, not just to survive, but to thrive. Health also signals something deeper to women. It signals that you're a protector. That you're capable of handling pressure. That you take responsibility for your body, which often reflects how you handle other responsibilities in life. A man who invests in his health often invests in his career, his family, his mission. He's not careless with his time or his energy. And that sense of responsibility is attractive. It tells others you're reliable. That you don't let yourself go when life gets hard. That you show up for yourself, and by extension, for the people you care about. The difference between vanity and health also lies in how you treat others. Vanity competes. It compares. It needs to feel superior to feel secure. But a healthy man has nothing to prove. He helps others. He encourages them. He doesn't put others down to lift himself up. He's not intimidated by another man's progress, he's inspired by it. That secure energy is powerful. It's calming. It makes people feel safe around you, not judged. You're not trying to be better than everyone, you're trying to be the best version of yourself. Health, when pursued from the right mindset, becomes a foundation for everything else. It fuels your mind. It strengthens your emotions. It sharpens your decision-making. It gives you endurance in your career and resilience in your relationships. It's the root system that keeps you standing strong when life tries to knock you down. Without health, all the success in the world is fragile. What's the point of building an empire if your body is falling apart? What good is wealth if you're always exhausted or sick? True respect begins with taking care of the one thing you can never replace, your health. And this doesn't mean perfection. You don't need to have six-pack abs or look like a fitness model. Health is more than muscle. It's how you breathe, how you sleep, how you feel when you wake up. It's how well you recover from stress. It's how much presence and focus you can bring to the people you love. A man who walks with energy, stands tall, and carries himself with strength is a man who earns respect without saying a word. People trust him more. They follow him more. Because they feel the power that comes from a well-cared-for body and mind. In truth, health is one of the most honest forms of self-love. Not the kind that posts selfies in the mirror, but the kind that quietly eats clean, stretches, lifts, rests, hydrates, and breathes. It's not about ego, it's about gratitude. You're thankful for the gift of your body, and so you steward it well. And that stewardship creates a ripple effect. Your energy influences others. Your discipline inspires others. Your strength becomes a resource, not just for you, but for everyone around you. People may admire beauty, but they respect health. Because beauty fades, and vanity gets old fast. But health? Health sustains you. It carries you through adversity. It allows you to build, to lead, to love, to fight, and to grow. It shows that you're not here just to take up space, you're here to thrive. That's what people respect. Not just the way you look, but the way you live. Not just the image you project, but the example you set. A healthy man is a walking testimony of what happens when discipline meets purpose. And that kind of man is rare, and deeply respected. Less is more is not just a phrase, it's a principle that reveals the hidden power of restraint, focus, and clarity. In a world that glorifies excess, noise, and busyness, the man who knows how to strip away the unnecessary stands out. He isn't trying to impress with abundance, he's impressing with precision. He doesn't need to speak the loudest, wear the flashiest clothes, or flaunt his wealth. Instead, he masters the art of doing less with greater impact. His words carry more weight because he doesn't waste them. His presence feels deeper because it's not diluted by desperate energy. He creates space around him that feels intentional, not empty. That's the power of less, it refines, it focuses, and it elevates. When a man lives by the principle of less is more, everything about him sharpens. His wardrobe is simpler, but more powerful. Every item fits, has purpose, and communicates something real. He doesn't need 50 shirts to feel confident, he needs 5 that fit perfectly and suit his identity. The same goes for his possessions. He isn't burdened by clutter or constantly chasing the next thing. He's not owned by his belongings. He owns only what serves his life, not what distracts from it. And that gives him more freedom, more clarity, and more peace. While others drown in their possessions, he moves light and free. In communication, less is more becomes even more potent. There is a difference between talking and saying something. A man who talks constantly reveals his insecurity. He's trying to fill the silence, prove something, or control perception. But a man who knows how to say little, but mean every word, commands attention. When he speaks, people listen. His words land because they aren't padded with fluff. They're chosen. They matter. He doesn't talk to hear himself speak, he speaks to be understood. And that minimalism in language is powerful. It creates mystery. It draws curiosity. It demands respect. Even in relationships, less is more holds true. Love doesn't need to be proved by constant validation or overwhelming effort. Sometimes, the quiet support, the strong presence, the thoughtful gesture says more than 1,000 words ever could. A man who gives his woman space to breathe, who doesn't overwhelm her with neediness or smother her with insecurity, is often the one who makes the deepest impact. Because he isn't seeking approval, he's grounded. He's solid in himself. And that self-containment makes him magnetic. He gives what is needed, not what is excessive. And that makes his love feel cleaner, stronger, and more lasting. The same goes for ambition. A man with a clear vision doesn't chase 100 goals at once. He focuses. He knows his lane. He's not distracted by every shiny opportunity or trend. He chooses fewer paths, but he goes deeper into each one. He does less, but accomplishes more. That's how legacies are built, not by spreading yourself thin, but by concentrating your energy where it matters most. Simplicity is not laziness. Simplicity is mastery. It takes strength to say no. It takes vision to know what to leave out. But the result is clarity, efficiency, and power. Minimalism in life is not about owning nothing or doing nothing, it's about eliminating the excess that doesn't serve your purpose. It's about choosing quality over quantity. Depth over noise. Silence over chaos. The man who lives by less is more doesn't live a smaller life, he lives a sharper one. He's not frantically adding to his life, he's editing it. He understands that freedom is not having more, but needing less. And that needlessness creates power. You can't be manipulated by what you don't crave. You can't be distracted by what you don't chase. That internal freedom is rare, and it shows. Even in personal growth, the principle applies. You don't need to read every book or follow every guru. Sometimes, one truth deeply understood can transform your life more than 100 surface-level insights. One routine done with discipline will change you more than 10 tried and abandoned. Progress doesn't come from how much you consume, it comes from how much you apply. So when you focus on less, you make room for more transformation. You clear space for depth, for presence, for real change. And in the end, the most compelling men are not the ones who have the most, they are the ones who are the most clear. They know who they are. They know what they want. And they aren't distracted by what they don't need. That clarity is rare. That simplicity is refreshing. In a world chasing more, the man who chooses less, but chooses it well, is unforgettable. He moves through the world with purpose, with grace, and with impact. Because in every area of life, less noise, less clutter, less distraction always leads to more presence, more power, and more meaning. So if you recognize these signs in yourself, your calm confidence, your emotional intelligence, your refined style, your strength of character, then understand this, your attractiveness doesn't come from trying to compete with younger men. It comes from something they haven't had time to build yet. It comes from experience, self-mastery, and the quiet power of a man who knows who he is and doesn't need to prove it to anyone. Being a highly attractive older man isn't about age, it's about evolution. And if you've done the inner work, stood through storms, and come out wiser, stronger, and more grounded, then you're not just attractive, you're magnetic. Because in the end, real attraction isn't about youth, it's about depth. And you, my friend, have earned yours.